want to take us through the Spurs?
I would love to. The Spurs, so they acquired Doug McDermott via sign and trade, inked him to a 3-year, $43.2 million deal. Or I have 41.3, not important, fully guaranteed either way. Signed Zach Collins, 3 years, 22.1. Only 10.7 million of that is guaranteed. 3.7 million guaranteed in 22-23 and totally non-guaranteed in 23-24. Bryn Forbes is back on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. In the biggest move that the Spurs made, they sent DeMar DeRozan to the Bulls as part of a sign and trade that brought back Thaddeus Young, Al-Farouq Aminu, a 2025 first-round pick, which is top 10 protected, top 8 in 26 and 27, and a 2025 second-round pick. And they also sent their own 25 second-rounder. They acquired Chandler Hutchinson, who they waived, Nikola Molitinov. I don't know if he's still on the roster or not. Maybe. Drafted Josh Primo at 12, which was a point of some discussion at the time. That seemed like a big reach, but who knows. Signed Keita Bates-Diop to a 2-year, $3.6 million deal. The second year is non-guaranteed. Signed Jock Landale to a 2-year, $4.5 million deal. Second year also non-guaranteed. And Joe Wieskamp got a two-way. In addition to DeMar DeRozan heading out of town, Patty Mills, the last remnant of the last Spurs title team, is gone. Rudy Gay and Trey Lyles also out of town. I think that's everything. Gorgie Jang also gone, but he was sort of a part-timer there. So, Dan, what are your thoughts? Did I miss anything, number one? And what are your thoughts on the San Antonio Spurs offseason?
Well, you missed the Doug McDermott contract because I had it wrong. You were right, though, when you said yours, $41.2 million, which 41.3, excuse me. I didn't have as big of a problem as other people did with it. The Zach Collins deal looks a lot better when you get into the details of it. Yeah. And they got a caps lock haul for DeMar DeRozan. That is, and I think the Josh Primo as sort of an unknown, I went back and I talked to his agent on this podcast, and I was watching a lot of film for Josh Primo from it. I appreciate the swing because it seems like when you look at their prospects, if they need like someone who might sort of explode or have a volcanic ceiling as a ball handler, shot creator, I'm just looking at his physical tools and what he does, and then of course the youth aspect of it. It's possible that it's just higher than it is for Dejounte Murray, Derrick White, Keldon Johnson, those guys. So I and where it seemed like in a territory, it became very clear once you got past a certain point in the draft, there were not a lot of givens.
Yeah, and so just take your guy. If it's 5 spots early, who cares? That's kind of the thinking.
And I was told that there was a team that was going to take Josh Primo before the Spurs if the Spurs were to trade back, which is why they took him at 12. I don't know how true that is, but so I think because they're not all the way there, but I don't know what else they're supposed to do to get there. It seems like they've inferred that they're going to rebuild or at least open to it. And now they've given themselves easier access to it because they don't have these like super fat salaries on the books that can't be moved if they want to turn into sellers. Dejounte Murray's their most expensive player next season. It's at $15.2 million, 15.3, however you want to round. So they have like they just have a lot of stuff that they could do. I think the biggest gripe you could have is there's really a chance that if they go for it, they get stuck like in that play-in chase sub just below the play-in chase where they're not bad enough to sort of outrank teams in the lottery from the East and then, of course, certain teams in the Western Conference. If they want to go that route, though, they don't have a deal they can't move. Thaddeus Young should probably net them value either before the season or during it.
Oh, yeah.
And look, if they want to go for it, just the fact that they're going to do so while accentuating, I would assume, based off how their roster is built, Dejounte Murray, Derrick White, giving a shot to Zach Collins once he's healthy. You're probably going to find out more about Devin Vassell and Lonnie Walker, who's extension eligible right now. Lucas Amanic should probably get more playing time. Keldon Johnson, of course. I'm curious to see if they use Josh Primo this year. We know how the Spurs have typically operated with rookies. I like what their offseason says about how it feels like they're finally prioritizing this super big picture and not just trying to tread water or feign treading water because Greg Popovich is so old and like they actually do have these good players. I gave them a B. I could probably be talking to a little bit lower just because if you were going to go into the rebuild, you should say, well, lean fully into it. At the same time, it's like, just because you're rebuilding, does that mean that you should be moving Derrick White? right now. I know he's not young, but it's why would you move Derrick White? He's still sort of a swing piece on your team. And it's the same story with Dejounte Murray, who's a little younger. So I'm just like, I don't know how they could have leaned further into it. I guess don't pay Doug McDermott is one of those things. But if you're going to overpay someone, overpay the guy who can shoot threes off motion and also was one of the league's most efficient cutters last year. So I think B, maybe a B minus, just because like if you're still, I think you could still talk yourself into saying, are they kind of there yet? But I don't know if it's not because they kept DeMar DeRozan, which would have been, I think, more of a concerning move for them than whatever they did this offseason.
Yeah, that would have been so disheartening because that would have just signaled like, now we're going to try to, be seventh or eighth or whatever, and it just no. I gave him a B plus.
Oh,
I think getting anything for DeRozan, who like they had no business getting anything for, really. Get I like I this is maybe hyperbolic, but I think that Young might just be a better player, like might just be more helpful to a winning effort than DeRozan is at this point. I think that's at least debatable. And to get, picks thrown in and other stuff, like phenomenal. Like that's one of the better moves of the offseason. And to your point on McDermott, like I think if so they lost Patty Mills, right? And I think if you need someone to replicate him running all over the place and making life easier for everyone else he's on the floor with offensively, because he's setting little fires all over the place that need to be put out just by moving around, like McDermott can kind of do that. So if you're trying to preserve, spacing, or if you're trying to give like DeJounte Murray and Derrick White and even Josh Primo if he gets minutes, you're trying to give these guards, you know, just an easier time of it. McDermott is a helpful guy in that regard. And kind of on the Daniel Tice thing, which minus the trade kicker, both McDermott and Thad Young, I think, are guys that you could absolutely trade that kind of fit almost anywhere. Both of them are pretty scalable. If you're a playoff team and it's the deadline, you're like, God damn, we got to free up this offense. Doug McDermott, 41.3 over 3 years. Awesome. Let's do it. Like, let's throw a first and whatever. So the Spurs are kind of having it both ways if that's what they decide to do. And even just like to fill out the potpourri of like different types of deals they swung, Zach Collins, great flyer. Like I don't think it's likely that he's going to stay healthy just because he never has. But you've just protected yourself against all the downside risk, and maybe he's a stretch five that starts for you in 2 years. Like I don't know, it's stranger things have happened. So I think the Spurs really kind of ticked off everything they needed to and did better than they had a right to really overall. So it's a firm B plus for me.
I guess what's also, this is in favor of them, but I don't know necessarily who you're now bestowing the responsibility onto. But both Patty Mills and DeMar DeRozan are gone. You didn't functionally replace either of them. I know Bryn Forbes, like you've decided your primary playmakers now are Murray and White, I guess. And I actually like that there's probably more to plumb with both of them. And then maybe what it says about, well, they're going to try and give Keldon Johnson, Lonnie Walker more responsibility. I think Devin Vassell should play more. I don't think he's going to be given more on-ball responsibility, though. That would be a real shock. Even having Keita Bates-Diop on this team, just to take those type of flyers you already mentioned, Zach Collins, and I guess you get some playmaking from Thaddeus Young, but I do like, and maybe even Trey Jones gets run now. So I do like what this suggests about what they can do. I just don't necessarily know if they have the talent in place to maximize not having the DeRozan Patty Mills, where there's not that clear pecking order. You have to be pretty high on Dejounte Murray's feel, and I'm not there yet in the half court. But I like that the Spurs seem prepared to plumb, I guess, everything.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think they kind of took the safety net out, right? Because now it's been several years for Murray now. Post, he's had the ACL that interrupted his progress, but like now let's find out. Let's find out if he can be the primary ball handler on an offense that doesn't have, the Mills and DeRozan elements kind of taking the heat off. I think if this is a rebuild, or if it's like a soft rebuild, or it's a let's feel out how this rebuild might go, I think we'll know after this year what Murray can do, right? Because I think he's deep enough into his career where if he's not ready now, then he's just not the guy that you build around, which I think they probably still believe that he is. And maybe that's what this is about as much as anything.